play. So as far as the game is concerned, I didn't change anything. Just also as a player, I had to change. I trusted Fonte for that game or any other game. I trust Fonte, but I also trust all the others that were there with me. And Pepe and Ruben started that game. Then Semedo with Diaz. I was already getting ready, also already ready to try Semedo to see how it worked. So it was more like testing the physical aspect of these players. In the second game, there was no changes at all. I mean, we are talking about a goalkeeper. Of course, it's unfortunate that two of our players had to fall ill. This is never nice. This is never positive. They both tested positive to COVID. Now, unfortunately, we have this problem. It is an abnormal thing. Of course, as far as the game is concerned, and I already said this a while ago outside, any team that loses the best player in the world cannot get better. I mean, something would be wrong if I said so. With the best player, we would always be better. But this team has already shown that we have the collective capacity to solve the problems, and I have absolute trust in my players and what they can do tomorrow. So I'm tranquil. Of course, I would like to have Cristiano, but if I don't, I trust these players, and those that's the 11 that start and the others that come in will certainly do a good job. Now, the COVID issue is sad. Is well, in human terms, for the players, for the men, but also because we have done everything we are told. We have taken all precautions because health is extremely important. I can tell you that since Monday, for the past 7 days, we are here, confined. The staff, the players, we arrived in here, we were all tested, and no one else has came in. It's like a bubble. There's no one from outside coming in or out. In the first training period, there were no problems. This time there was a problem, but not because we broke the rules. It just happened. A player that tests positive on a Monday, it wasn't here that he was infected. So the players are very worried about abiding by the safety rules. Now, playing outside, that's normal, but anywhere, that's how it works. And here, after taking 6 or 7 tests, as far as I'm not mistaken. So every day we have been tested, and of course, that leaves us with a bitter flavor because we've done everything right, and this has happened. But it happens, and because no one knows yet exactly how COVID is transmitted. I'm not a doctor. I don't have to understand it. But what I feel is that we do everything right. We play. We take the bus always together. We never leave the hotel. We come back. So everything we did, we followed every health rules. Unfortunately, this still happened. That's life. Now, more questions from the journalists that were sent beforehand. Another question that most journalists asked is about how you have lived the last hours in the national team. How is the group reacting to this news about Ronaldo, and how is Ronaldo himself dealing with it? Well, let me start with that. Ronaldo is doing excellent. Is leading very well with this. When he took this, when he took the new test in the morning, so he was in isolation last night after he took the test, like all the players. They went to the rooms. Then in the morning, during the night, we knew about him being infected. Again, we was tested in the morning, and the other players as well. Cristiano immediately and isolated. Well, he has been in isolation since then. He's in his room. He says he wants to play. He shouts to us, "I want to play." But he's doing well. He's asymptomatic. He has no problems. He doesn't even know exactly what happened to him. Now, as far as the first question is concerned, these were three hard moments to us. First, Fonte. We came here, and the other day in the morning, they say we have a problem here, a positive case. We have to test again. So for a moment, we were upset. I can't say we are happy about it. Of course, we weren't happy about it. We were upset. We were worried. And then we took another test, and then this happened again with Anthony Lopez, and now with Ronaldo. So this is not something that is very common. It's not common to happen, and when something that is uncommon happens, of course, people comment, people talk, but as things calmed down, all the other players took the tests. Unfortunately, Ronaldo was still positive. All others were negative. Okay, rock and roll. It happened like this. It happened with France against the game against Sweden. Mbappe was tested positive the day after the game. He left, and life went on, and life goes on here as well. And we are happy to, and we are ready to play tomorrow. From the Swedish agency, the impact of the absence of Cristiano Ronaldo in your game plan. Well, in the game plan, of course, the dynamics will be different. But not the whole strategy, the organization. I would say that even the basic dynamics, offensive and defensive dynamics, they will be very similar. But Cristiano has his specific and particular characteristics, and we know, everyone knows about that. And correctly, that with Cristiano is a mobile player that moves around from the left to the middle, from the middle to the left, and there has to be a certain fluctuation between among the players up front to make up for that. So in those details, thing will be different. But we have played without Cristiano before, and we did well. And we maintained our natural profile. And that has to do with the DNA of our players. A common made lately is that Portugal is no fear about playing and looking in the eye of the best. Do you think that now the idea that we can beat the best has been strengthened? I don't think so. I think that Portugal, late in the last years, and it's been quite some years, has shown clearly, and has always been able to play against any opponent. We were in the final of 2004, Euro 2004, semi-final 2002. So we have been in all final stages. In 2012, we were in the semi-finals. We lost with Spain in the penalty shootout. So we have done excellent campaigns with great capacity and quality. Since I came here, I told you what I believed in. I told you that Portugal would be a candidate. People thought I was crazy, but I assumed that Portugal would be a candidate to win the competition. Every game we play to win. But we know that every game has its own difficulties. Some difficulties, other difficulties. Playing against the world champion, that was the last game, and before one of the best teams in the world, Spain, Portugal did what we always do. We play believing that we can win. If you call it displaying eye on eye, I don't know. Maybe not. It's not always like that, because the opponent, we cannot always make this happen. Sometimes the opponent does want not to play eye on eye with us. So Portugal has proven, and I think this shows how the other teams play against us. We are respected, and no one likes to play against us. And just like there are teams we would like not to play against, in quotes, because these are always the best games, of course, but that's, you know what I'm trying to say. But the most important is that the fundamental message is that Portugal now is always ready to play these games, and we have to be always prepared, just like Ruben said. The other games as well against teams like Sweden, it's also a great team because the League of Nations, it's like the European Championship some years ago 16 teams, four groups, and only one goes on to the next stage. Before it, there were two that went on to the next stage. So it's much more difficult in such a scenario, meaning that all teams that are in this first league of the League of Nations are top 16. Uh, the uh, um, the stage that we go on and the European Chips, that's after the group stage, but we are already in that stage here. So this means that Sweden is an excellent team, great quality in strategic terms, in organization, a team that works a lot. And like Nordic teams, they are very, they know how to display their players on the ground. They are very well organized defensively. They show technical quality. We often spend about dribbling in terms of technical quality. That's what people see most. But these teams, usually, these players are excellent in terms of passing the ball and receiving the ball. Sweden, other than these ingredients that make it very strong, they have two excellent players in the wings, Kokolevsky, that plays with Ronaldo, and Forsberg, that they also bring this additional creativity, imagination to the team. So we have to be very attentive because the accounts in this group will pass by Sweden, and we cannot forget that. Well, you already answered several questions I had to ask you here, but from TSF, three very demanding games in 1 week, not many practices. There can always be some physical wearing out. Are you changing the team? No, I'm not going to change. Well, I have to change for the reasons you know. So at least one change I'll have to make. I didn't want to. You'll see. You'll see. Maybe one or two other changes, but nothing. It won't be very different from the team that played against France. And if it the changes we may bring, it's because of the physical condition of the players, and these will be very demanding in physical terms. So we know about that. We are aware of this. Now, from what happened today stems this question. Without Ronaldo, who will replace him? That I'm not going to tell you now. Tomorrow you'll know. Around 6 p.m., you'll know who is going to play in Ronaldo's place. Well, against France, you had more of possession of the ball than against Spain. Maybe the change in the midfield changed that. How are we going to play against Sweden? A more defensive, more offensive team, taking more risks. Well, the difference between the France and Spain game is that in the first 25 minutes against Spain, our defensive and offensive game, we were very far away from what is normal to us. And possession of the ball was more of Spain because our DNA is possession of the ball, but with objectivity. And in the second half, in the game against Spain, that came out very well. The team was better together. The game was more balanced. We were able to have more possession with depth, understanding of the game, and always trying to create opportunities to win. Because if you want to win, you have to create opportunities. And we did have a few chances against Spain. In the game against France, the question that problem that we had against Spain did not exist. We were much better from the beginning, always well organized, all times of the game, namely when we did not have the ball and when we lost the ball, we were able to recover quickly. We were not so well in what we would expect after what happened against Spain in the second half. The offensive actions. We did attack, but we did not very as we should. So what I said is, unlike what we had done against Croatia, and in the last 3 games, where we were able to be a team that had the possession of the ball, sometimes short possession, but when variation possession in depth. Against France, we had more possession of the ball, but we were not so objective about playing behind the backs of the opponents. But we did a good game. What I said is, it's not because I think that we did not do a good game. We played an excellent game, but it was against the world champion. And they also played with caution against us. So this is a fruit of what our players did on the pitch. But we had a very powerful opponent, I stress this, and they didn't allow us to do everything we wanted to. I think we could have done a little better. And because I want the best for my team, I want my players to do always the best. That's why I said what I did, what I said. You said that against France, Portugal, or you complained that Portugal played too much with the players always too much close to each other. Maybe with Jota, Trincão can be an option because they offer more variability to the game. Well, that was a reading in that game in particular. If you go back to what I said after the game against Sweden or against Croatia, I didn't say that. So in this particular game, in a few moments, and those were important because the wings of the French team had some problems, some difficulties, and we could have done something that we did well against Croatia or against Sweden. This is the way we play. The players know exactly what to do, so there will be no problems. As João Felix said in the end of the game against France that they don't hear the supporters. Tomorrow there will be 5,000 fans in Alvalade. Would this be a stimuli to the players or the home factor without an audience who we want to be an advantage? Well, I'm not saying that without an audience it's a disadvantage, but part of the advantage disappear, of course. 5,000 fans, that's bad. That's not bad. In many championships, in certain fields in Portugal, 5,000 is a lot. But of course, they were smaller stadia. It's always exciting to have an audience. 5,000, 10,000, 50,000. It's always exciting. Full stadiums singing the national anthem would be best. But with 5,000, I think we'll hear better the people singing, and that is very important. It's important to the players. We felt it today. We felt it the other day in France when the national anthem was sung. It was the players that had to sing it. But it's important that this comes from the outside. It's important to me, to the players, in all aspects. It's fundamental to have an audience, to have the fans in the stadium, with whether they have more than less. It's the end of this press conference. Thank you again for allowing us to have this distance conference by sending us your questions. Thank you.